Good morning, everyone. Happy Disney Day for Red Ribbon Week. I hope you guys are staying warm outside. It's super cold today. All right, so today we're going to talk about your test review for tomorrow. So if you're on Zoom today, we're going to go over how to answer everything, and it's basically the test. And then if you watch this video, I'm going to go ahead and read through everything with you. And if you want to fast forward that part and just kind of get to the questions, you can do that too. But I want to make sure that we are ready to go for tomorrow's test. So when you open up this review, it is a daily grade to complete it. You'll see the text is right here on this left-hand column. And then on the right side, it says to use that highlighted evidence to help you respond to the questions, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and read the text to you, and then we're going to go through and look at all the different questions because they are directly related to the questions you're going to answer tomorrow. And you can use all of this on tomorrow's test, okay? So the piece is an opinion piece. So it's supposed to be persuasive. It's supposed to have an argument. And the title is Emoticons Aren't Ruining Language. They are revolutionizing it. So emoticons are like emojis, okay? This is by Lauren Collister, and it was recently published within the last 6 months, so it's pretty current. And it's basically about how people basically text with emojis. I know I do all the time. So text messages are ruining language. Oops, ruining. LOL, JK. In many casual discussions of language and the internet, it is common to hear about how text speak is ruining language. Some people argue that technology has made us lazy about how we speak and write. Major media outlets have bemoaned the ways in which people communicate using technology. Of course, language does change when it's used to text or write messages online. Text speak is an evolution of language. It's even the focus of a field of linguistics called computer-mediated communication, or CMC. This field is dedicated to the study of interaction facilitated by technology like computers, mobile phones, and tablets. Contrary to the idea that these innovations are corrupting language, CMC demonstrates a creative repurposing of symbols for technology. These swift and clever evolutions illustrate the flexibility of language and its capacity to communicate nonverbal meaning. Change doesn't mean decay. People have been complaining about language being ruined for as long as they've been writing and speaking. In a TED Talk, linguist John McWhorter shared stories of people complaining about language change throughout the ages. In AD 63, for example, a Roman scholar complained that students of Latin were writing in an artificial language. In fact, this writing was a new language that would become French. Similarly, in 1871, the then president of Harvard University said, "Bad spelling, incorrectness, as well as inelegance of expression in writing, ignorance of the simplest rules of punctuation, are far from rare among young men otherwise well prepared for college studies." Future U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt was a student at Harvard in the 1870s. A biographer for Roosevelt noted that the future president supported the revision of American English spelling rules, many of which we still use today. These include changing re-endings to ER in words like center. The British English is center with an RE, and changing OUR to OR in words like color. The emoticon, or emoji, more than a face. Today, people are able to communicate rapidly using a wide variety of tools and technologies. Perhaps no linguistic development better indicates changes in the way we communicate than the popular emoticon. The emoticon, a colon followed by a parenthesis, is a visual representation of a smiley face turned sideways. Although an emoticon may look like a smile, a frown, or any number of facial expressions, it doesn't really represent a face. Instead, it's intended to convey a feeling, such as "I'm happy" or "just joking." The very first use of an emoticon is credited to Scott Fahlman, a computer scientist at Carnegie Mellon University. In a 1982 email, Fahlman suggested using the smiley face as a way to indicate a joke in a text communication. In this legendary email, he also used the first instance of the frown emoticon. Emoticons that represent these feelings are what linguists call discourse particles. These are little pieces of language that offer information about the tone of a statement. In a study of instant messaging, scholar Xiaokang Lo from the Chinese Culture University in Taiwan described emoticons as quasi-nonverbal cues. In other words, they look like words, but they perform the functions of a nonverbal cue, like a hand gesture or a nod. Symbols clarify meaning, help conversation flow. Individual symbols can add meaning to a message or express meaning all on their own. They serve a different purpose than emoticons. For example, have you ever seen someone fix a typo in a message with an asterisks? Sometimes we correct ourselves when we're talking aloud, like I just did, a practice known as conversational repair. We might say, sorry, I meant, or I actually meant, when we make a mistake in what we've said out loud. This conversational move has made its way into online written language, where that correction is reduced to a single symbol. The asterisk signals a repair of an error in written language. Instead of saying, oops, I misspelled asterisk in my previous sentence, people can simply put an asterisk before the corrected word. That's not only the use of the asterisk. A pair of asterisks around the word or around a word or phrase can indicate emphasis. This style has given way to words in all caps and repeated letters to show intensity and emphasis. Linguist Deborah Tannen and communication scholar Erica Derricks have noted this in their research. Tannen proves an example of a text message that uses multiple styles to convey an intensely apologetic, sincere tone. Jackie, I am so sorry. I thought you were behind us in the cab, and then I saw you weren't. I feel so bad. Meanwhile, punctuation marks like hyphens and periods suggest a change in voice and tempo. One example is ellipses, which can indicate a tone of voice that is trailing off or hesitating. Here's an example of a conversation in the popular online role-playing game World of Warcraft. So, since we live in the same city, do you want to meet up sometime? A single symbol can relay a whole message. A single symbol can also be an entire message on its own. Linguist Susan Herring writes that a single question mark can be an entire message that indicates that the user is confused or does not know what to say. In other words, a question mark does the job of asking for clarification in a single keystroke. Similarly, a single exclamation point as a message can illustrate surprise and excitement. You can repeat either of these symbols to show an even greater level of surprise. Consider this exchange in which B uses nothing but symbols to express reactions to A's statements. So I have some good news. Question mark. I got a raise today. Exclamation mark. And it came with a promotion. 3 exclamation marks. Far from ruining language, these examples indicate how people can now communicate complex feelings in a simple, streamlined manner. This kind of change is perfect for our modern, fast-paced world. All right, so this is all about using emojis and text speak and how that's not ruining language, right? Hello, we're talking about this in English, which technically English teachers, you would think, would be the ones that would condemn the text speak. But it's actually really in other places that don't really understand language where if you use it correctly, I say go for it. So your review is going to have those embedded questions on the columns, and they're based on the highlighted evidence, and then there's numbers in front of them to match. So it says, based on these first 2 sentences, who would the intended audience be, right? It's not everybody, but maybe people who think a certain thing. So it says, in many casual discussions of language and the internet, it's common to hear about how text speak is ruining language. Some people argue that technology has made us lazy about how we speak and write. So who would we be looking at here? Why would we take this whole article to explain how using kind of text messaging language isn't bad? Okay, so you'll type your response there. Number 2, based on this sentence, why are emojis better for communication than written text? So why would I use an emoji rather than to spell something out according to this sentence? These swift and clever evolutions illustrate the flexibility of language and its capacity to communicate nonverbal meaning. Okay, and in this one, there is a counter argument. So at that first sentence, what is the counter argument? Okay, so we're arguing that text speak isn't ruining language, so the counter is people complaining, right? As long as they've been writing and speaking, that that this kind of text speak is ruining language. Okay, and 4, what appeals do you notice in this section, like ethos, pathos, and logos? And then what makes John McWhorter a credible source? Okay, so he's a linguist, but what is he doing in this TED Talk that makes him a credible person? How does the writer address the counter argument in this paragraph? So these are all the people that are complaining, right? But then the French language happens. Then this person at Harvard is talking all about all these incorrect ways to speak and write. But then future president Teddy Roosevelt does something else and changes language altogether. So he kind of opposes that. So this whole section is where you have an argument and then there's a counter, but then the writer goes back and reinforces it, but then she counters again and then she reinforces it. So kind of figure out what's going on organizationally here, okay? So I'm telling you this because you're going to have at least 2 questions on counter argument, and I did highlight where in the text they will be. So this will be a super helpful resource tomorrow when you have those multiple choice questions. All right. Again, this is similar to number 2. So based on these sentences, why are emojis better for communication? So you had one reason about flexibility, then you have another one here about conveying feelings. And then here, individual symbols can add meaning, right? It's the same question. So what do the symbols do? They have a different purpose, right? They serve a different meaning. So there's 3 reasons right there why emojis are better for communication than written text. So make sure you know all 3 of those reasons. And then on the end of your document, you're going to have a short answer practice. So you're going to need to find your organizational pattern notes, and those are in last Monday's folder, so Monday the 19th. And you're going to look at an organizational pattern that you noticed and how it contributes to author's purpose. Counter argument could be an organizational pattern, but you definitely want to look at, is it problem and solution? Is it information? Is it comparing and contrasting something? So go back and look at the notes. And then how does it contribute to purpose? So you had those 12 different verbs on your purpose chart from forever ago. You'll have to go back and find that. But it was like inform, explain, express, reflect, propose a solution, any of those things. So organizational pattern, author's purpose, and then you need to use text evidence. So last Wednesday, we talked about the PQE method. You need to make a point. So the point is about organizational patterns and purpose. Then you introduce your quote, provide where it comes from, and you have the author's name right here, and you have it at the beginning of the text, and then just make a connection. So all those things need to go together in a paragraph. And it's a pretty big chunk of the test grade, so you really want to make sure that you are able to put that together. So if you have questions on any of this, ask me today. Or you can even ask me before the test tomorrow, especially if you want me to look at your short answer because it's such a big percentage of your test grade, okay? I hope you found this video helpful, especially with me reading the text out loud to you and going through all the questions that are going to be on tomorrow's exam. All right, I look forward to seeing you guys on Zoom, and we'll see you tomorrow.